Yes, I just have one more comment that Craig, if you could you please take out a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper write last will and testament.
Okay.
And then underneath it write, please do not press charges, she caught me trippin'.
Wait, caught me what?
Trippin'.
Oh, trippin'. Okay, cool.
Oh.
That'd be great.
So this way you have your out, Cassie, is that it?
Yeah, basically.
Unfortunately, I don't have any paper. We're at a crossroads.
Fuck.
Unfortunate.
So that just means it can't be soon. So Cassie, you just have to wait until you can sneak paper onto his desk when he's not looking and then be like, Craig, that memo I asked you to write, have you done it yet? You should maybe check on your desk. You've got supplies ready.
Shit.
きっと約束だよいつかまた同じ笑顔で
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Box, the Annie chat box, where 5 friends snuggle up in a teeny tiny space to talk about all things anime. Today, in this teeny tiny space, you have me, Cammy, as your main host, and I am also accompanied by the hostess with the mostest, Cassie.
I was really hoping you'd say Craig.
The hostess with the mostest.
Wait, I'm the hostess with the mostest?
I mean, it would be you wouldn't predict it. And Craig, you were such a good hostess. Craig literally, destroyed the house today, and by destroyed, I mean took what was destroyed and fixed it. Our whole
What a
house
miracle
is,
worker.
clean, and I think it's only because I mentioned, hey, Jazz is coming over for maybe 3 minutes.
So even better than a hostess snack cake, you
Ooh.
have Craig.
What's up, Internet? How's it going?
Does anyone have a favorite hostess snack cake?
I
I'm
like
trying
the
to think.
cupcakes. The cupcakes
The
are
cup-
really good.
The chocolate ones? Heck yes.
Are the zebra cakes hostess?
I think so.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are my favorite.
Zach-
Zingers are my favorite, which are just frosted Twinkies.
And Zach's just processed food.
That was
The one
not-
who's hating! The one who is hating on hostess snack cakes, which includes his best friend. There is Zach from
Suck
Save
it.
Our Progress.
Suck it.
Suck the hostess snack cake? Is that
Suck
how we
it.
eat them now?
I mean, you could.
like
You
the
kinda-
Shiokodama right out the hostess cake.
Oh, is that what we're calling the butt?
I was gonna make a comment about sucking the cream out of the middle, and now I don't want to.
It's just like the Shiokodama. Right on out. All the
Okay.
cream all over.
That's
Okay,
visceral.
yes, you've introduced yourself, Zach. We get it. You're here.
Very
thanks for being here.
visceral.
I'm so dead.
Oh,
Dead
God.
and gone. And a chatbox funeral.
Oh, no.
It was a good
not
run.
Yet, not yet. Hey, we have a really important show to talk about today, you guys. It is Ikuhara's latest work, Sarazanmai. But before we do, we're going to lead you in with a main topic, which essentially is social topics that we would like to see better represented in anime, or anime that are already doing pretty good in this regard. To explain a little bit about how this came to be, I've been watching a show recently called Lovely Complex, and there have been 2 encounters in that show. I'll give one example. One of them is that one of the main characters plays basketball, and there is a point where they have a very important basketball game coming up, and the lead character is short and has a height complex, and so I get the whole joke of hey, you're gonna go up against these tall players. But they basically displayed this other team as all of these giant black men from Africa that were basically depicted in a very stereotypical way with kind of dopey sounding voices. They're drawn to be giants essentially. And this is not something that I'm unfamiliar with. Kuroko no Basuke also had a depiction of a black character before that was similar. And it's not my vibe. I do think that anime in general has a track record of less than perfect portrayal of characters of color. And that is something that I would actually really like to see represented better. Though we had a show come out not too long ago called Run with the Wind that has a character, Musa, in the show, who is from Africa, and he is a primary principal character who is depicted in a way to me that seems very natural, very well intended, and he also even speaks up about some stereotypes that his Japanese dorm mates may have about people from Africa, and it was really awesome. I would like to see more depiction of that. So, like, my first social topic I'd definitely like to see improved would be characters of color, but there are some anime out there that are doing pretty well.
Yeah.
One example too is the most recent Precure. Star Twinkle
Yes.
has a young lady who's one of the mainstay Precures who's Latina, which is pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was rad because I never see
saw-
Latina people in anime, like, ever.
I saw a clip from her where they like met her family, and it was so wholesome.
Oh, her
Mhm.
dad.
Awesome.
Her dad just
Mhm.
sings.
Yeah, that is another very good one, and I'm very excited about that. And then Cassie, I was talking to you about Lovely Complex as well. I didn't know if you wanted to maybe. Yeah.
Another problem that the show has, but also to give it its credit, it does kind of backpedal and give this character some good representation and some good respect later on. There is a transgender character in Lovely Complex who's introduced as a joke.
Mhm.
And the way the reveal happens is not good.
Nope.
And the resulting aftermath of it is everybody just laughing at the situation, and it just felt very demoralizing as someone who, you know, has friends and very close loved ones who are transgender. It just was, it made me feel sick, kind of sick to watch. However, they do backpedal a little bit, and after, you know, it's revealed that, you know, she is female and she identifies as female, most of the cast respects that, calls her by her name that she wants to be called by. But as the show goes on, occasionally there's still primarily male characters not respecting her pronouns or her name.
Yes.
Which is a little
Cringy.
annoying.
Mhm.
There has been some pretty good trans representation in anime recently, one being in Zombieland Saga. We talked about that last week, I believe, or the week before.
Mm-hmm.
That has some pretty good representation. I'm stuttering to think of anything else.
Wandering
Oh,
Sun.
yeah, I was gonna say Wandering Sun, yeah.
Hotomusko, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really, and that one is handled with really, really good care, considering it's talking about adolescence and puberty and how, you know, everything is freaking confusing then, let alone trying to figure out your how you identify in regards to your gender. So that one was handled with a lot of amazing care. But it is something that I would like to see explored more, because as I look back at early 2000s anime, I noticed that there's a lot more transgender jokes made than I never really realized.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more positive representation of that.
Yeah, I am right there with you for sure. Craig or Zach, is there anything like, are there any depictions of like social depictions or even just topics that maybe, you know, you'd like to see handled a little better? Or if you know some stellar good examples, you could also bring that up.
One thing that I, like, when I saw this topic, I kind of racked my brain to think about, like, good, what are good examples and what are bad trends that the anime and manga genre has presented in Japan. I want to bring to the table what is known as the male gaze on females. It's to varying degrees. I think it's kind of a bad joke. Cass kind of got heated with her take on Fire Force and how a certain character is the butt of a joke. And it kind of tends to be the case when it's a lot of harems or, like, maybe shonen male demographic. Maybe they just or put it in there for sex appeal, but at the end of the day, it kind of comes off as a little cringe. That being said, there are good representations of female empowerment, like, you know, the Dawn and stuff like that, where where like males and females are on the same level. They are respected. They essentially are capable in their own right. Also, I'm watching a show called She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Oh,
Not an anime, but that's also female power, and no male gaze in that at all. So
that's a good example. And especially, now I'm just kind of thinking about it. Yona of the Dawn was a great recommendation, and I'm just like thinking about other shonen that have really, really awesome female characters.
Yeah,
I think My Hero Academia has some amazing female characters as well.
It's true.
That's a big one for me.
The few females that you do see in Togashi's works are pretty amazing too, like Biscuit and Hunter x Hunter, or Genkai and Yu Yu Hakusho.
Nice.
There are some aspects that are played up in their characters, specifically with Biscuit, that I'm a little kind of annoyed by, but for the most part, she's a badass female who can beat up all the boys.
You mean the bulk up ability?
Yeah, it's pretty great. We are all feminists here at Annie Chatbox. We support women. And we would like some more feminist narratives in our anime. There has been with Mari Okada lately. She's been having a really good time with feminist narratives. Both in things like my brain always forgets this movie that I watched. Makuya. There we go. Or most recently, O Maidens in Your Savage Season.
Not Savage Garden?
You did it!
Savage Garden. I did it!
No Chikachiricolas in this one.
I'm so depressed.
It's sad.
I literally thought that was the name of the show for the longest time, and it's not.
Zach shattered your world in that moment.
Zach broke me. I'm so sorry.
The show is not about a Savage Garden fan. Sorry.
Damn!
I'm so sad.
Ooh. I would love to get y'all's take on this one, because I thought about this topic, and I don't usually like the way it's portrayed in anime, but I think I just came up with a show that does a very good example of it. I'm not a big fan, and this happens especially with female characters, when a character suffers with social anxiety, and it's always portrayed as either to be like moe or extremely like debilitating, like they just literally cannot function as human beings because they are anxious around people. It's usually used for comedy, or is just so out of whack in its depiction that it just doesn't feel relatable as someone that deals with social anxiety. I know plenty of us do. That's something that I'm not a big fan of. I do think while it's amidst a lot of other like deep-seated issues, I really like the way that some of the characters reflect social anxiety or even just interpersonal anxiety in Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah.
I think Shinji, especially like Shinji's need to always be like self-pleasing, like he just wants to please others.
Yeah.
Really well done, really relatable, and I am impressed by it. I would like to see that more instead of just taking it to be kind of a lighthearted joke. Also
a good example of social anxieties, Fruits Basket.
Yes. Oh shoot. Fruits Basket does so many good.
Slowly kills you as you watch it, and Silent Voice, also another. Anxiety. Literally with X's.
Kind of writing the line of what you may find acceptable or not. I think Hitori Bochi is a pretty good one too. Like, it's still in the moe camp.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it does play up her anxiety as kind of a joke in a way, but it's more about like that weird social anxiety you have as a kid, and it's taken more as light-hearted comedy than the butt of a joke, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think it does. I only watched about maybe the first 10 minutes of Hitori Bochi, but I remember there was this idea where she was just afraid of confronting a certain issue, and her mind raced around like 10 different methods to basically like circumvent said issue, like indirectly, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, that's anxious brain. When you're just like, I'm so scared of facing this, how are all of the other like possible ways that I could handle this situation? Like, how could they work? And then having them like end up having a problem, and you just get so wound up in it. I think that was very nicely done.
Zach, do you have any social issues you like or do not like?
I've never been a big fan of the fetishizing of gay relationships in shows as well.
That's
like I was thinking
a good
about
one.
Yeah, I was thinking about it today because Twitter is a fun place to go on hot debate topics. And I just saw a thing about some dude, I guess, was saying like, oh, lesbians are more accepted than gay men are. And then it was like the idea, I was like, well, no, because lesbians are more fetishized. That doesn't mean they're accepted, you know?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
And so it's like in anime culture, there's a lot of fetishization of both lesbian couples and gay couples to a certain degree. So just like that's a trope I'm not a big fan of. And Sarazanmai is a good example of a show that does not fetishize the gay aspects of the characters.
Yeah. Treats them with some respect. I appreciate that. To piggyback off Zach, I never knew about this, but I guess Yuri back in the day, because I didn't used to watch a lot of Yuri, but a lot of it seemed to be based on like being gay was a phase.
Right.
And
That's a big thing for Ikuhara's other works as well. Like Yuri Kuma Arashi likes to play up that aspect, like how he plays around with the idea of them constantly referring to each other as friends, even though they're blatantly being sexual with each other all the time. It's just more commentary on class X relationships in Yuri manga. So
yeah, which I never even knew that was a thing. I got educated relatively recently. I think, I think it was the Ikuhara documentary, or it may have been something else. I don't know. I just know I got a moment where I was like, I done be educated now, and I did not know that this was a problem. And I am really happy that it's going in an opposite direction for the most part, with some of the more prominent current popular Yuri things like Kase-san, or as much as I wasn't a big fan, I think a lot of people are a big fan of Bloom Into You, for example, and that one takes a lesbian or otherwise Yuri relationship seriously, and that's nice.
Unlike
They
Citrus.
Craig.
What did you say?
I said unlike Citrus, which is the bad relationships.
Well,
yes.
That fetishizes a lot more than just lesbian relationships.
Oh yeah, it does.
There is actually
dubious
go ahead.
consent. Anyway.
Oh, Dubcon. Oh, I hate Dubcon. Okay. I did want to mention too, in Bloom Into You, there's actually a side character where they like very blatantly address the whole "it's just a phase" thing with the character, and I really was impressed to see it just like that outright stated in the show. So yeah, super good.
It's good.
Yep. And there are plenty of creators out there who are like trying to make an effort in putting more addressing these issues in these shows. Sayo Yamamoto is one of those. Because she did Yuri on Ice, which covers like gay relationships. She also did Michiko Hachin, which represents characters of color, specifically in the lead role as well.
Watch that.
Fujiko Mina, both Sayo Yamamoto and Mario Kata working on Fujiko being the main character, empowering like female characters like sexuality in positive and negative ways. So, yeah.
You know something I just noticed in that discussion? There are a lot of female anime directors and writers that are able to handle these portrayals very well. Also, like Arakawa, who did Full Metal Alchemist. You've got your really strong, well-developed female characters that are treated with respect. You have Naoko Yamada, who did, to the manga's credit, but did work on A Silent Voice as well, with like the anxiety and the like psychological issues bit. So if this all boils down to give us more female-led projects, I'm down for it.
Plus.
Yes. I am totally down for it.
Or just collab teams, because there's this thing with Ikuhara Works where he addresses a lot of feminine issues, but sometimes kind of takes the back seat because he understands he's a male director kind of telling these stories. I'd love to see him like pair up with like a female director and make something.
Yeah, he should.
He does like to take a lot of interesting creators under his wing, and he does work with female mangaka all the time when creating his shows as well.
Oh, for sure. I just want another director, like a co-director. That'd be interesting to see what they come up with.
That would be really cool. And now I'm just thinking of another main topic for the future of like director dream teams or like sound designer dream teams, all this stuff.
Like, or just like your dream like team, just in general. Like, who would you want to have as your character designer? Who would you want to have as your director, co-director? Who would you love to see on storyboards? Oh, that'd be fun.
animation studio even, just like your perfect creative anime team. Oh, shoot.
That'd be fun.
If you are interested in such a topic and you think we definitely should tackle it down the line, send us an email at anniechatmail@gmail.com.
Please do that. That'd be great. One other thing I wanted to mention before I moved on. One thing that I've liked recently in anime, not necessarily due to a social issue, but just something that me personally I'm enjoying, is that a lot more adult or animes that star characters that aren't necessarily in high school are starting to come out, and that makes me really happy. Just a little tidbit.
A change of pace.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree completely. Yeah. And they've been really good, just like accurate depictions of adult living too. You know, it's not like the idealized, like you have it all together.
Yeah, for like, you know, like To the Sacred Beast. Totally realistic.
Oh, the epitome of realism.
I mean, I haven't watched it, but I did hear you guys talk about it. So.
I mean, listen, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I have to kill all my comrades.
Do you?
I guess I was thinking more of like
cold sweats,
like Miyamori and like Shirobako.
Is joke. Is joke.
Craig,
Is joke.
Run.
Yes, Zach.
Run.
Why is Craig run?
Because Cass needs to kill all her comrades, and I'm the first to go.
I mean, he is the closest.
I'm expendable.
I feel like we've talked about this before, like where we were like one day, like Craig, I feel like you've said this. You're just like, one day when Cass breaks, she's gonna go after me first.
Yep. I mean, he
100%.
is readily available and
readily available to be killed. Yes.
I was gonna make a really bad joke, but I won't go there.
Please free me from my mortal coil.
Oh, that's a beautiful last line delivery. But yeah, I'm really excited to get in today's anime review. Are y'all good if we move into that?
Yes, I just have one more comment that Craig, if you could you please take out a piece of paper and on that piece of paper write last will and testament.
Okay.
And then underneath it write, please do not press charges, she caught me trippin'.
Wait, caught me what?
Trippin'.
Oh, trippin'. Okay, cool.
Oh.
That'd be great.
So this way you have your out, Cassie, is that it?
Yeah, basically.
Unfortunately, I don't have any paper. We're at a crossroads.
Fuck.
Unfortunate.
So that just means it can't be soon. So Cassie, you just have to wait until you can sneak paper onto his desk when he's not looking, and then be like, Craig, that memo I asked you to write, have you done it yet? You should maybe check on your desk. You've got supplies ready.
Shit.
It's coming. What's the podcast gonna do without Craig? Our episodes are just gonna go unedited. Oh, goodness.
It'll all
I'll
fall
have to take
apart.
over trying to make funny voices. It won't work. We need you here.
I appreciate you.
Yes. I hope that you will stand by us, stand by me.
Oh, nay!
Oh, nay, guy.
Beautiful. All right, so that does conclude our main topic, and we're going to hop into our review for this episode, which is on the latest Ikuhara work, Sarazanmai!
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 Damn it! We're not getting this right. What did we
Sarazanmai! We
Yeah, I'm
tried.
not gonna try that last part.
Okay, you
We
know,
tried.
here's something I wanted to see about this show. What if they tried doing Sarazanmai, but they, weren't in unison, and it failed because of that?
That'd be beautiful. They all just, fall over.
Yeah, exactly. In that water jet stream thing.
I mean, I think our last take was pretty good, Craig. I think if you just cut out the first few tries to do the last one,
Keep it all
we'll
in.
be good to go.
Yeah.
No! Don't keep it all in. Remember, Zach, suck it out.
Suck it.
Oh, no.
Okay, anyway. Okay. So Sarazanmai was animated by Studio Mappa. It also looks like collaboration with La Pin Track. Other shows by them, La Pin Track at this point has only helped on Sarazanmai, but will also be helping Mappa in 2020 on Uchitama, Uchi no Tama Shirimasen ka, And Mappa has also recently done Dororo, along with Shingeki no Bahamut and Punchline.
Woo.
Whoop.
Mal gave me a big old paragraph synopsis, so let's see if we can do this.
You should say it with a
Kazuki?
very, like, intense Italian accent.
I can't do an Italian accent unless it's like offensive Mario. I really
can Zach
can't.
do it? Could Zach do it?
I'm
Zach,
good.
please.
Zach, please.
It'd be borderline racist, so I'm pretty good.
That's what I was saying.
Zach,
Okay,
say
that's what I was
Zach, say
saying.
it with a Brooklyn accent.
No. What? What does that have to do with anything?
I want an accent. I want you to say the description in like an accent.
I'm good. I'm solid.
Okay, maybe just incorporate Chimkin somewhere and I'll be satisfied.
All right. Kazuki Yasaka, an 8th grader living in Asakusa, is turned into a kappa along with his classmates Toi and Enta by a mysterious creature named Keppi, after they break inadvertently a statue of a kappa, the guardian god of the city. Then they are ordered by Keppi, who claims to be the heir to the throne of the Kappa Kingdom, to fight against the Kappa Zombies, bioarms created by his enemies, if they want to return to their human form. They're weird, like, commas and sentence endings here. Either way. In order to try to kill them, they have to make a specific sound called Sarazanmai, which you heard us fail to do earlier, which is produced only when the 3 of them are united, but the boys cannot connect at first. In addition, one of their secrets is revealed to each other every time they emit the sound. They finally accept to take risks to collect the Plates of Hope, given by Keppi when they defeat the Kappa Zombies, and which can make their wishes come true. However, some trouble occurs over the plates! ... Exclamation point! Along the course of the fights against the Kappa Zombies, their fierce past and inner conflicts keep getting revealed. This is the sarcastic fantasy? ? Of 3 boys who don't feel connected to their important ones, getting to realize the meaning of bonds. That was a strange synopsis, but I mean, it's accurate.
There's parts of it that are actually very well worded.
Is it sarcastic though?
I think it kind of is, in a way. A lot of Ikuhara's stuff is sarcastic. It's kind of like how Zach mentioned the comment about how girls would refer to each other as friends, even though they're literally licking each other's lilies, if you know what I'm saying. And the same thing is in Sarazanmai. I think he has a sarcastic approach to society.
He's very playful.
Yeah, I feel like it's use of sarcastic to talk about, like being playful, like kind of meta commentary, that sort of thing. And in that way, yes, I can understand that. So that being said, diving on into story.
Where are we diving into?
Oh God, stop.
Into
no.
the butt.
Not yet. Not yet.
That's the production.
Right where we're diving. No, there's story revolving around the fucking analingus here. We gotta discuss it.
Yeah.
I mean, so
juices everywhere. Let's get to it.
So
delicious
this show,
Sakuga.
I mean, I do want to say that I think that Ikuhara is always known to be a little bit like sensationalist with his works and the way that things are presented.
Yeah.
I think this show has the most shock value out of any episode 1 of like any of his shows.
Yeah,
for sure.
In the
what didn't Cass like tell you like don't watch this in public and don't watch this while you're eating because it is the most visceral opener
Zach
of an
warned
anime?
me too. Like I wasn't able to watch it because I was in office because I used to actually work in office. Remember those days?
Yeah.
I wanted to watch Sarazanmai because I was so excited. And then I was like, oh, but I won't watch it on the train because I have bad signal. And Zach was like, well, that's probably for the best. By the way, don't eat anything. And
I had no warning, and I watched it after one of my classes on campus. I sat in a little study cubicle, so thank God for the most part, like, it was covered. But there was definitely a point where I just, like, my eyes went wide. I, like, gasped. I slammed my iPad screen down. Like, nobody could probably realistically see it, but, like, the shock I had of what I saw, I was just like, I must turn this off, like, right now.
You know,
in a public spot.
you know, on that point, I think even when the show started, there was like this Twitter post that went around that said, "All right, people are questioning like the inner like machinations of Ikuhara's mind, the symbolisms, everything. Now it's just this is where people say he's talking out of his ass." He made a show about ass.
Oh my god.
I mean, we talked about it. He has that sarcasm, playful nature. So he was just got to see how much he can get away with, which was a lot, apparently.
In 11
I was gonna
episodes,
say,
no less.
Does this feel like the most unrestrained of the Ikuhara works? Because I kind of...
In terms of visual, yeah. For
Yes.
Sure.
Well, in regards to visual
messages.
and also some of it's like... I mean, we'll get into it, but there's a lot of
messages.
like very... I don't even know how to put it. Like, hard to even like comprehend storytelling.
Yeah, I think it's very unrestrained. I think that he got out of his little shackles of like any sane like PA person or like PR, and it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. This is mine.
You know how like Evangelion was made and afterwards Anno made a fuck you movie?
Yeah.
I think this is Ikuhara's end of Evangelion, but in a much more playful way. Like
Yes.
Like, you guys thought I was
man.
hard to comprehend and thought that I was being visceral before. Well, hold my beer.
Exactly.
Hold my beer.
I agree with that completely. I will say that for the episode amount that we had, I was pretty impressed with the pacing and the storytelling for the most part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that it's almost interesting because a lot of the set pieces, especially in the first few episodes, are repeated. There's a lot of stock footage in the show, and yet you still don't know exactly what's going on, per se, until later on, and even then, that's really left up to your own interpretation. But I don't think it's done in a snarky way. I don't think Ikuhara is going, oh, hey, I'm going to show you the same thing over and over again, so pay attention, this will be on the chest.
I mean, that's just part of Ikuharaisms. He likes playing with stock footage, and that definitely comes from where he came from in terms of like his Sailor Moon, where their stock footage was a frequent thing.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
That show.
But
and he just plays it into all his shows.
But what I'm saying is that the stock footage at first does not make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's a lot of concepts and singing and images and leakage, and I mean, listen, you show me the stock footage from Sarazanmai and then Usagi's transformation scene from Sailor Moon and try and tell me it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I just say how much I loved that this show features musical numbers?
That's great.
Amazing.
100%.
I'm just, and this is probably more of a production thing, but I'm just glad that they were able to pull it off in English, too. That was a big thing when the dub was announced. It's like, the core concept of the show is singing. How the fuck is Funimation gonna do this? They did it. Good on them.
Well, I think that, like, them using music also is just very a smart choice, because something that also kind of just crosses across language barriers and just across people in general is music. So you have this entire show about people wanting to connect with each other, and their primary way of connecting with each other is through, well, one, pulling shit out of butts, but also singing.
Song. And dance.
Song and dance. And I do really appreciate how inner desires are compared to stuff that we necessarily might be keeping in the closet. Like, our inner desires might be a result of darker intentions or desires or past mistakes that we have made. And they teach you that while saying absolutely fucking nothing. They just kind of give you information. And I think that's one of the pinnacle ways that Sarazanmai tells its story. And I think that that is absolutely wonderful and also irritating at the exact same time.
Yeah. I feel for this show, I think for me, probably like last episode notwithstanding, we'll talk a lot about last episode in Spoiler Room. I got shit to say anyway.
Me too.
But yes. But I think for the most part, this was more of like a penguin drum to me than like in Utena, for example, where like throughout the show, I felt like I could understand a lot of the core concepts and what messages were trying to be told to me.
Yeah.
The ways that the themes were portrayed. So to me, like, it again, like, I thought it was like well digestible for an Ikuhara show. But your mileage may vary, because I've watched all the other ones as well, and again, that first episode for some people. But I think that, yeah, it is a lot.
I mean, I think it's visually, like, deterring, but as, like, in terms of themes and such, I think this is his most digestible show, for sure. Like, I think it's pretty easy to follow. Like, I would probably, outside, like, maybe if you can't handle certain imagery, this is probably, like, I think a good starter if you don't feel like jumping into the deep end.
The starter pack.
I know a lot of people that actually said that this was their first Ikuhara anime, which I thought was like good and bad, because like it annoyed me when people ask me and they're like, "Do all of Ikuhara's anime involve diving into butts?" And I'm like, "No."
I mean, I wish, but you know.
Oh my god!
Uchino would have been a very different anime.
I'll show you where you pulled that sword from.
Oh no!
Oh my god!
Oh no!
Zach, take the wheel. I'm done hosting.
You know what? I'm kind of the devil's advocate on this, because I think Sarazanmai is actually the hardest one to digest.
Really?
Ooh, okay, yeah, tell us more.
Because I, as somebody who's watched at this point, all of his other works, thanks to Cammy's lovely picking of Utena back in the day, which was my shame. I've watched all of them, and for Sarazanmai, I just found, like, especially because it's in such a condensed episode count, I didn't have time to sit there and think about stuff as much as I'd like to have, even though I was watching it as it was airing. And even now, I still feel like I need to rewatch the stuff for me to even slightly digest exactly what was going on through the whole plot.
Okay.
I personally think Penguin Drum's a lot easier to understand and digest.
I can
even on a surface level.
Yeah, I mean, I can get that as well. For me, with my mileage with the show, it was fine to comprehend and get in the first half, and the back half, it just starts to, like, put the pedal to the metal, and then you get the ending, which we'll talk about later.
It's a lot, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I just think that also a lot of the themes in this show are way different than stuff he's explored previously that I noticed this time around with Sarazanmai, which is good. But at the same time, I feel like I was a lot more confused and had to rewatch stuff that I had already just watched sometimes than other Ikuhara shows I watched. Other Ikuhara shows I watched and I was like, oh, okay, I think I kind of get it. Okay, I can keep watching. Sarazanmai, sometimes I had to watch an episode 2 or 3 times before I was like, okay, so that's what happened. Okay, all right, I can move on now. And that's somebody who's experienced with Ikuhara shows.
So you're saying that this would have benefited from a longer episode count rather than the 11?
I mean, I think it could have benefited, but I don't necessarily think it's a detriment either. I'm just saying because of its short episode count and because of the themes it's trying to teach and because of all the things it's trying to say, and Ikuhara just being fucking Ikuhara, I found it a little, like, hard to digest at first. I needed time. Which you could say with all of his works, but when I watched Penguin Drum for the first time, I just got it.
Yeah.
So I mean, everybody's going to have a different opinion in that regard, but I guess I'm just kind of on the other side of the coin.
I guess.
Yeah, which totally works.
I feel Penguin Drum is the most, like, surface level, easy to understand, just the most digestible in terms of, like, how deep the rabbit hole goes. Like, so if you're not going in there not thinking too much about it, I think I agree with that as well. I just think it's also the deepest in terms of his works, in my opinion.
For sure. And I'd agree with that statement too. Like, if you're gonna try and turn into Zach for 10 minutes, like Penguin Drum is way fucking deep. And if I were to compare Sarazanmai in that regards, then yes, I'd completely agree.
Zach, how are your notes for Sarazanmai?
I didn't take any for this podcast.
Oh!
But I didn't do a rewatch like I was hoping to. I didn't have the time. That's probably where all my note-taking would have taken place.
We should have a Patreon tier completely dedicated to Zach.
Notes.
Just called Zach's Notes segment, and we just, like, get into a Skype call one day, and we're just like, okay, Professor Zach, we would like you to educate us while you speak into this microphone for us.
deep dive the single anime for today.
Nothing can be intense in my opinion as Penguin Drum, because that just like the ramblings of a man who was clearly like locked himself away for like 12 years and then came back and made a show. So
yeah.
How long? Go on.
I was just gonna say, I think that in regards to Sarazanmai's story, though, like it's really interesting and different, and you've noticed that none of us have brought up any necessarily like plot elements at this point, because it's just very hard to talk about specific things that happened without them just either being bluntly spoilers, or we would sound like we're not making any goddamn sense.
Yeah, it's a slow rollout type show where the reveals are part of the big nature and leaves off a lot, and the show leaves off on a lot of cliffhangers.
Yeah,
purposefully. So
they're after credit scenes. There are those in this show.
Make sure you watch them. They're important.
Definitely make sure you watch them. I will just also say, like, we obviously don't have to deep dive in it, but like anybody who's listening, if you haven't heard anything about Sarazanmai, just know there's a lot of butt stuff. Like, it's just, that's it.
Is that
it's a lot about
wording.
butts as a subject matter.
Oh,
a lot about desire, love, the differences between good and evil, and the differences between good and evil through a societal lens. That's one of my favorite things.
Amazon
Zach brought to my attention. I can't even take credit for that. Zach one day was just like, "Hey, Cassie, did you notice this?" And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool."
Kappa Bezos is around every corner. You know,
there's some otters.
Yeah, concepts.
Concepts. You see,
so,
this is why I think that this is Ikuhara's end of Evangelion, because there is a scene before the show ends, minor spoiler I guess, but not really, where one of the characters just looks at you and says, "I am a concept," and then disappears. And I'm like, fuck you, Ikuhara!
So how long was it between Yurikuma and Sarazanmai? How many years?
4 years.
Question.
Oh, I was
Damn!
gonna say 5.
Well,
Oops.
Penguin Drum to Yuri is 4 years. Yuri to Sarazanmai 4 years.
Okay, I was about to say, did he lock himself in like the dungeon and just be like, "All right,
he's been consistent with his time so far.
I've emerged. I have so many things to say now."
And he does. I think that's one of the things that you can say about Sarazanmai is that regardless whether it's your cup of tea or not, it has a lot to say. And it's going to speak to every person who watches it differently. Like, for example, I know when we get to talking about the ending in the spoiler section, we're going to have probably 3 different interpretations, and none of us are wrong.
Nope.
Whereas when you watch another anime, it'd be like, oh, a character died, and this was the message, and most people will be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense, I can see what you're saying there. Whereas this, it's like, well, I mean, I guess you're right, because it wasn't necessarily clear to my eyes.
And that's why I love Ikuhara for that reason, because a lot of his endings are all ambiguous, and they just weren't discussion. Hot takes, and you're just like, man, what did you take out of this? What did you take out of this? And that, him being an auteur, an artist, he's fucking fantastic because of that.
It's not even just his endings.
Yeah.
If you love media analysis, Ikuhara is like your man. This is just, you love to go on those forums and talk about episode interpretations. Ikuhara shows are like your bread and butter, which is really great. The other thing, we don't have to talk too hard on it on story, but I do think it's very much worth noting that while a lot of Ikuhara's works are about the way that society views women, typically, this is in, like, for the most part, it's an all-male cast.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, and it wants to, I think, address struggles or even just stereotypes that are often pressed onto men, also young men, I think in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's a kind of more untreaded water for Ikuhara that's maybe been addressed in, like, side characters or, like, on a more minor level in his other series, but it's bringing that subject matter to the front lines, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of his works tend to be very counterculture. We're just like, and most of the time the villain overall is the system, the man, if you will.
Yes.
Ikuhara is probably the person making anime that from our topic we're able to say, hey, here's somebody who might actually be able to make those changes, because he'll look at what is popular and would sell and says, well, fuck that, I want to do this instead. And that's what makes him a very important and also interesting director.
Yeah, good stuff.
The story also has a lot of that gay shit, so that's nice.
Very gay.
That very nice, good representation gay shit, by the way. Not any of that.
It's not toxic. No dub
Well, some of it is, but they don't show but they don't show the toxicity as a good thing. Is the thing.
It's not glorified.
That's another thing that I like about this show. Our heroes of the show are all kind of awful children, but they're also just very good boys. It's complicated.
Yeah.
Which I think is an also recurring thing in Ikuhara's works is like how people are affected by the system sometimes can lead them to go astray, or the system depicts them as this is a bad person. I think, that could be safe for character stuff, though.
Yeah.
So.
But it is part of the story and themes, though, so it's definitely good to touch on for a sec.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually was going to suggest we could move into characters unless anyone really wanted to stay on story.
No, because I think a lot of the other story elements we'll probably touch on will be part of the characters, because they really make up the part of the story we can talk about in any
for sure
real capacity.
Yeah. I want to say, just for the most part, I think that's another thing that I really did love or was impressed by with this show. I think, again, for how short of a runtime it was, I became quickly very invested in most of the characters. Definitely all of our main characters. I just found for the most part, well fleshed out. Or if not, I wanted to know more about them. So it was good. I cared about them, which was good, because there's some good boys. Someone tell me about a good boy. Who's your favorite?
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger. I'll talk about Enta.
I love you, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I'm not gonna lie and say I honestly thought you were just pointing at the screen and wondering.
I was hoping somebody would speak up and be like, me, and no one did, so I will do it. Anyway, Enta is one of the main three. He is, it's kind of hard to go into without spoiling a bit about his character, but I describe him as the disaster gay of the group.
Oh,
He reminds me a lot of, but more like a more innocent child version.
Yeah.
And can obviously go of Saionji, where he is a character that has reflected poor decisions by the system, but as a small child, he can go back easier on the path, obviously.
You just hurt me so bad.
Saionji.
I did.
Oh, God.
I love Saionji.
No, like, for real. Yeah, no, like, all of the actual things that, like, before Saionji became an absolute dickbag.
Yeah, but Saionji is one of those characters that totally got fucked over by the system and the toxic masculinity of his relationship with Toga. And I feel like this is kind of like the childhood. I think that's the benefit of making these characters all 12 children, because that way they can learn and there's still time in their lives to, I guess, realize their place in the world, and it's not everything you're stuck with the mistakes you made forever.
Yeah. And I think that Enta is, I won't say the most flawed, because they're all pretty flawed, but
absolutely
a lot of the decisions that he makes directly affect the group in a lot of times negative ways, due to his own inability to control his emotions. But like Zach said, he's a kid. And he's confused. Mm-hmm. And I think that when they do, I mean, I jokingly called him a disaster gay, but like he's actually a good representation of a gay character learning about how he feels. Yeah. And sometimes it's dirty, and sometimes you make bad decisions. Or, and by dirty, I mean, like, it's not all that great to explore that kind of stuff. It's murky waters. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And I'm happy that they explored that kind of part of discovering part of who you are. There's nothing wrong with him being gay, but it's him being confused about those feelings that causes him to make some really shitty decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that makes him a really interesting character. I think that towards the end, he was not utilized as much as I would have liked. If anything, he literally becomes a plot device.
Yeah.
And that frustrated me a little bit. I think that also his resolution to his situation with one of the other main characters confused me. It was like a thing happened, nobody really talked about it, and then it was like it never happened at all. That frustrated me a lot too.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think that Ento is a really good part of the cast, and when he infuriated me, I understood why he infuriated me. And when he made bad decisions, I understood why. And the weird thing is, he's the one who probably was the antithesis of almost trying to break the group apart, and yet he was also the one trying his hardest to keep them together. It's just really double-sided, and I love him a lot.
He's a good boy. I really like what you said just about the mistakes that he may make. You can understand why they are there, and I do think that it is depicted that he certainly learns from his own struggles.
For sure.
Which is really awesome. I like him a lot. I'd say he's probably my second favorite out of the main trio.
He also has this duality that I kind of mentioned, where he may have some weird or toxic relationships with, honestly, both boys that are part of this group. But the characters that are most important to each of those boys, he actively interacts with.
Yeah.
And tries to help the situation. So it's kind of an interesting, weird thing that was played with that I'd love to go back and analyze a little bit more. Because we see him on screen with Haruka more than... Kazuki. And when there's a situation going on with, who Toei's special person is, Enta also has this really long, interesting conversation about, what's good and what's bad as well. And it makes Enta grow as a person. And it's just this big drawing of lines of connections and stuff.
I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because it's been a while since I watched it, and that's definitely like a key, probably purposeful framing and method, that it is Enta that is the one that interacts with them, and I just didn't even... Now I want to go back and rewatch it and keep that in mind.
Boss.
That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. So since we're still talking about the main three, why don't you talk about your good boy?
I love one Kuji Toei. He is a very, very wonderful emo-haired swoop angst boy.
The boy, he needs a nap.
Baby just needs a hug. Anyway. He is shown first off as kind of the character that's like introduced to form the main three. Like he wasn't really a mainstay. It's like, hey, he's here now. He's part of this. He's very rough around the edges at first. And already I just honestly had one look at him and I was like, I think he's gonna be fave. He walks around with a ruler for not measuring reasons. No, but I think for me, out of the main three, I was most captivated by the struggles that he went through. I think that the show, again, I wish that it was evenly distributed between all the boys, because I am really upset with how, again, near the end they just kind of drop off of Enta entirely. But Toei has a very well developed arc. That just kind of follows through. And out of the three boys, I think it's introduced last.
It is.
It's introduced last. It also carries through
to the very
all the way
end.
Until the end.
Yep.
Yeah. And it ends up affecting the entire group. And
yes.
And their decision as a group is centered around mostly Toei. It's ridiculously interesting and cool.
It's cool, and it's just really everything about him. I feel so much for him. Most of my emotional reactions in the show were centered around things that he went through, choices that he makes. I do also really love that I think all three of the boys have a good relationship. And the interesting thing is that they all have different but still strong connections to each other, outside of what's presented as hey, maybe these two were friends first, but for example, Toei's relationship to Enta and his relationship to Kazuki are completely different.
Yeah.
But they're very strong in their own way. And I like that I think he just kind of he has to really learn, hey, this is a connection. I might want a connection with somebody.
Yeah.
where the other two are kind of like, I need to savor this. Toei kind of has to be like, wait, is this a connection? Is this a connection that I want? Like, he's kind of more foreign to the concept of it, just due to like the way that he was raised. And it's hard for me to talk to him without going into spoilers.
Oh, but absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think going off what you just said, I think that he also has the most complex problem with continuing the connection with the group, because without going into spoilers, it almost becomes like he's the problem.
Yeah.
From his point of view, at least. And the way that things are framed, there's no other really way for him to feel but that way. And then, of course, you've got everything else that goes on after that doesn't help. But I feel like he's the only one in the group who ends up having to feel like that connection needs to be sacrificed.
That's very well said. Yeah, he thinks that he ruins connections, if anything.
Yeah. and that's interesting, but also just really sad.
Yeah.
I just want to give him a hug.
All the boys have different forms of self-hatred towards themselves.
Yeah.
And the feelings that they're struggling with throughout the show in terms of the connections with each other and so on and so forth.
Should we talk about Kazuki for a couple of minutes?
I think
Probably
we should.
Yeah.
None of us... I don't think he's anybody's favorite character, but I think he was a character, and I think that I didn't give a shit about him at the beginning, and by the end I was like, oh, you sweet summer child, swaddled in the blanket of ignorance.
That's a good way to put it. He's just bottled in the blanket of ignorance.
He's a good boy. It was funny because, like, when I was watching it, I watched all of Haikyuu and I'm like, that's Hinata's boy.
That's Hinata.
Yeah. He'll do anything for his brother, which is pretty good. But he goes through some shit too, so...
There was definitely, like, I was pretty... fine, I was fine with him. Like, he's a good character. There was like one moment where I got like pretty emotional about it, and it's when like a big point about his his secrets. There's a big point about his secret, and it's revealed, and it kind of broke my heart a little bit, and I was very sad. But I also think that I guess I feel like his arc is introduced first. And then I think about like halfway through the show, I was just kind of like, oh, that's kind of it. That's like what we've done with him.
Yeah, kind of feels like a natural conclusion around the midway parts.
Yeah,
and then most of the time it's his relationship to the other two and how it juxtaposes to another pair of characters that we have yet to discuss. So,
yeah, I don't think Kazuki's a bad character, but I will say probably that I was more invested in Enta and Toei's development. And even though Kazuki got his arc, to me, kind of fully, relatively resolved, and Enta didn't, I was more interested in, like, oh man, I want to know more about, like, Enta's arc. I want to find out more about that. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Also, I totally stole that joke from Polygon, so go watch Understanding Kingdom Hearts and every other story Unraveled to get that swaddled in the blanket of ignorance joke. It's really good.
Brian David Gilbert, yeah.
There you go. Sorry, off topic, but I wanted to cite my sources.
Good. So then, moving on from the three boys, there are two individuals that two hosts in here need to talk about.
Ooh.
I'm holding
Zach, you want to go first, or
yeah, go Zach.
You go for it.
Go, Zach. Zach, go.
Zach.
Okay.
Go. Run.
What?
You're on.
Yeah, I'm running. I'm moving. Where am I going?
go run into the wall.
The Otter Cops. Rio and Mabu.
The antithesis of the man in the show.
The perceived antagonists at the beginning of the show.
Perceived. I love that. Good job.
Yeah,
yes.
That's good stuff.
So... because obviously the relationship to both the characters and how they relate to these two individuals, how they interact with the story changes constantly throughout the show, and also the relationship with each other, the two otters, and gets defined as it progresses based on their interactions with each other and with the other characters. And I kind of find it difficult because like I said, it's a slow turnout because most of the show were perceived to be
bad guys,
the villainous, of the show, because they're the only things that represent, I guess, the system in this regard because they're cops, little cop boys.
They also create
Boys.
the villains of the week too.
Mhm.
So
Using the power of desire, which is always aimed, kind of shown to be not a great feeling to have in terms of like when at least in compared to love and desire, and that's what they powers the character through. And it's like I said, it's kind of hard for me to kind of discuss them without diving into spoiler territory.
That's my character's literally it's like
A giant spoiler.
giant spoiler for.
It's
Mappa.
fair because like most of the development that we get that makes them so interesting, and I'm just gonna say it, that those fucking cops made me cry, and I will never say that sentence ever again.
I remember,
Damn.
But
that.
there are some good bits for like rewatches because like there's like little image. I've been looking at some imagery before starting the podcast. There's like little love nuggets, spread out throughout the spread out early on the show involving the relationship with the two boys and a certain thing that happens in the late half revealed. So it's like it's an interesting show, and then like I said, their purpose is also to compare and contrast the relationship with our main trio as well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I will say also that so many people, just like right off the bat in like the first episode, watching the opening, and then later just seeing a certain clip of those two is kind of what gets a lot of people to watch the show.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
I've seen a lot of people being like, especially in the first few episodes, they're like, I'm just really interested in those sexy cops. Or I think I showed my friend Jasmine, she watched the show and she's like, what was that clip you reblogged on Tumblr with the veterinarians or something? And I was like, do you mean the cops? Because we're gonna watch Sarazanmai episode 1.
They're utterly sexy.
Oh my god, you watched it with Jazz?
We watched the first episode. Yes, I got to see her reaction.
Oh, I am
good
so
stuff.
fucking jealous.
And then she showed it to her roommate, her roommate's boyfriend, and her roommate's brother, and she sent me snaps.
I am so sad.
It's good stuff. She hasn't finished the show though, so
she needs to. She'll probably cry over Toei more than you.
Good boy.
Jasmine has a lot of feelings, and so do we. I think the show does a really good job with making you care about the characters that you even didn't think you would give a shit about. Do you guys have anything more to say about the Otter Cops? Because I have a question.
Go for the question.
Well, the question is not in regards to the Otter Cops.
Oh,
okay.
Because I just wanted to know how people felt about Sada, because that's probably my biggest disappointment about this show, is that I was so into her and her design, and I understand what her role is in comparison to like other Ikuhara shows, but I feel like she was a little bit more important to the plot than she ended up being, and I just was very sad.
Actually, go Craig.
I honestly kind of expected her just to be the role of the Greek chorus, much akin to Double H and the Shadow Silhouettes, and they implement her in interesting ways, and I'm confused by that, and I guess we'll talk about it later, but I'm like, okay, I guess.
If I could backtrack just a teeny bit, this actually goes back to the cops as well. I will say that some of the original source material for Sarazanmai centered around Sara and the cops, and it was, to my knowledge, very different than what we got in the anime.
Did the manga predate the anime, or is that came out?
No, this is a manga prequel you're thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Which depicts the relationship with the two cops and Sarah involved in the story. I don't know if it's a spoiler to mention this source material, but this was purposely distributed in a magazine leading up to the release of the show, and it serves as kind of like a semi-prequel, sort of.
Oh, right.
I wouldn't say it's a spoiler for you to say that, because they don't even really interact that much in the show.
No.
Which is confusing to me. I don't know. I just feel like she was underutilized, and she had such a nice character design, and I don't know. I just, for being like the only female also in the show that like, I mean, outside of, Enta's sister, but she's throwaway. As much as I love her, she's throwaway.
You mean Lulu 2.0?
She's also a disaster child.
She is also a disaster child too, and I love that she is definitely just ripping off Lulu's design, and it's great.
She's Lulu 2.0.
She is, but Sada is like the only like main female character, and nothing. Just nothing.
Yeah. There's a lot of presence of her in the opening, so, like, I guess I didn't expect them to do a lot with her, considering certain things. Like, to me, it kind of reminds me of, like, Momoka in Penguin Drum. But like, even less because, again, the episode condensed, and then she's mostly just relegated to the background. But, like, yeah, for all the opening presence, too, it's like, yeah, you'd think they'd dive in a little more to her. And maybe they were planning to, and it had to be dropped off. Who knows?
I don't know.
I have a question.
I have a question for your question.
What did you all think of Keppe, aka
Good question.
Keppe's great.
Junichi Sawabe, Velvet?
Also another character you can't really talk a whole lot of without getting into some spoilers, but like
True.
I'm gonna just say I had a read on him for like most of the show. Turned out to be completely false.
You were writing that read the entire time until the very end.
I had
Oh, yeah.
I had a theory, and it ended up being half right, so I was actually pretty excited about that.
Hey. Nice.
But yeah, Kepi is interesting. He's fun. He's also a source of a lot of comedy and comic relief after some really intense scenes, so I liked having him there. Him and his puckered butthole.
He can pole dance too. He's got some moves.
Like Jagger.
Yeah, I loved the I heard that. I love his just like little background jokes. Yeah, like I still don't understand how he like takes on so many different forms, but like it's there. And every week on Tumblr, it was like pole dancing Kepi can't hurt you, spider Kepi can't hurt you. Like,
It's very goofy. Leads to a lot of confusion at parts. Same with Sarah too. In terms of the continuity stuff towards the end of the show, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
I mean, they were enjoyable. I think at the end of the day, I wasn't like, I have to see these characters again.
Yeah.
So.
I just wish there was more Sada, to be honest.
I agree. I thought she was like the Greek chorus character because with the whole setup of her weekly things and then the little
Lucky
tidbits
items.
on Lucky Items, but also like the scrolling below.
Yeah.
Always said something different, but it's usually more hinting at her relationship with a character, more so than hinting at like what the themes of the show could be, like Triple H and the Shadow Girls were in Utena.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm with that too.
Oh no, I just would have liked to see more scenes with her, even with Actually, I'll mention that in spoilers because they imply that she continues hanging out with a certain character, and I'm like, show me like 5 more seconds of that.
You know,
there's a yeah.
But
too much focus on Toei at a certain point.
I think the characters are the best part of this entire show.
Same.
They're the best.
Yeah. They are, and I feel like in a show that addresses like connections, you kind of need that. you need good characters.
Oh, we didn't mention this in story, but I also like that there's this overlooming threat of just not existing because you don't have connections. And it's really interesting when you think about it because like even if you sit in this room now, it's like, oh, I know Cammy and I know Zach and I know Craig. But if I didn't have all these friendships and these connections, or let's say I like my family doesn't remember and nobody knows who you are, do you really exist? Like, it's just really interesting because technically your connections do indeed make up who you are.
Yeah.
And the kind of loss of like the kind of memory loss, like people forgetting about you and disappearing, is also present in a lot of Ikuhara's other works, if not all of them.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good catch on that. And again, I didn't even think about it.
Me either. It's okay. It's a very big part of the show, and yet there's so much other shit that you can't get to it. That just shows how dense this is.
Yeah,
Maybe...
he throws a lot at the beginning, for sure, too, in terms of like visual imagery in the show that represents a lot of themes that he touches upon. And I think he relies a lot also people coming in who know his stuff, too, which was probably why it makes it easier for me to digest, too. Mm-hmm. So...
Maybe I was gonna say maybe we were just distracted looking at that production.
Ooh,
hey,
quality transition.
Craig, do you have a credits corner for this show?
I mean, yes, I do. Give or take. I mean,
This is a new edition.
Oh, it's been around.
I always usually
listen more, Zach.
I was referring to the theme song.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
At least since I've been on the podcast last, so...
The chief director is Nobuyuki Takeuchi. Ikuhara also directed this, but they storyboarded it, they key animated it, like, what have you. They were basically hit tag team duo. Nobuyuki directed Cass's favorite anime movie of all time, Fireworks.
Gross.
And
Ooh.
Ikuhara, you know, all of what he's done. Obviously, again, the writer, Ikuhara. Wikipedia listed that there was another person involved, but my anime list did not list this individual involved in the production, so I can't vet if this other individual helped write the series composition or not, so I'll just go with my anime list in this case by saying, yes, Ikuhara wrote this. He had a pen name, kind of like how he did it with Yuri Kumarashi. The music, I mentioned this during Penguin Drum way back when in the holidays, but Yukari Hashimoto did March Comes In Like a Lion, did Penguin Drum, did Yurikuma Arashi. So I'm going to mention that again when we get to Yurikuma Arashi.
Hey.
And again, it's an original which spawned the manga, I believe, or as Zach said, the prequel manga came out before the anime debuted, and there's been a light novel with Ikuhara involved in that as well. So there you go.
Very cool.
Yep.
Thank you for all those tip-offs.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think back. I mean, Ikuhara shows, I think they've all been handled by a lot of different studios. But this is a Mappa take on an Ikuhara show. What did you guys think of just like the visuals, like the overall aesthetic, the character designs? I thought it was really beautiful.
You could tell this is his. You could tell this is definitely his best budget to date. Probably it allowed him to go fucking crazy.
I would say like I would say this is on par with Penguin Drum in terms of like the raw dollars involved. The character designs are crisp and clean, bright colors a lot of the time from what I remember. Even the stock footage was cool to look at.
CG wasn't bad, like the few times that I saw it either. It was nicely done. Like, I think the whole show just had like a very nice polish. Characters had good expressions. It like, to me, it was just kind of like a top tier production. I'm trying to think if I even had any issues with it.
I mean, no more have you seen Sakuga just visceral in the butt, and then I think Zach like sent an or used image in its tweet when the show premiered with them all turning into Kappas for the first time, and Ento's expression is like this one of pure disgust, like I am dead, and it's just like this is grotesque but beautiful at the same time.
Zach, didn't you tell me regarding the first episode that Junichi Suwabe like wasn't sure that they would be able to get it on the air?
Yeah, because of how fucking wild that first episode was.
Oh, really?
I think Suwabe was worried because of the content of what occurred in the first episode specifically, and visually.
Yeah,
because I think they showed ahead of time at a specific event in Japan to
screenings,
to a small group of crowd, and then I think that's where he made the statement. It's like, I'm not sure if this is going to be okay, but we'll see.
Hopefully it
sticks. God, it wasn't even just looking at it either, because I slammed my screen down, but I still heard all the fucking squelching noises and stuff, and it was absolutely disgusting.
Very vividly detailed, lots of vivid imagery, lots of leakage.
We just got a very rare opportunity. So we're reviewing Sarazanmai. Do you remember the first episode of Sarazanmai, Jazz?
Unfortunately, I do.
I just wanted to really quickly ask you what your thoughts on the production were. Do you think it was, based on just the first episode, visually appealing?
Oh, incredibly so.
Good. See? There we go.
Hey, Jazz. I love you.
Tammy said, hey, Jazz, love you.
I love you.
Yes. No, visually appealing, sometimes visually horrifying, but right when it needed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Horrifying? You mean delightful?
Delightful.
Delightfully-
Is the word I would use for everything that happens in Sarazanmai. Nothing bad ever
Absolutely.
happens.
Can I
It's a
quote?
nice-
Can I quote something that Zach told me in our line chat after the first episode?
Sure.
I'm gonna do it. I for one can't wait to watch that vor sequence every week with you guys.
Anal vor?
Oh, the part where Cat the weekly transformation sequence where Keppe sucks the Shirokudama out the butt and he absorbs them into his body.
And then poops
he's
them
like-
out.
And good sweet
God.
vor.
Delicious
God.
vor.
Are you all glad that they didn't do the full thing every episode? Because I was.
I mean, I was personally disappointed, but to each their own.
I
that
mean,
one.
I'm on Zach's side with this one. I wanted to
Okay.
be more grossed out every week. I wanted them to up themselves every week.
Oh my god, Cassie, wasn't it? There was a scene with like Kappa sumo wrestling that I watched with you and Rin, and I was just screaming.
You screamed so much that Get came in the room and was like, "What is wrong with you?"
Okay,
That's right.
let it be known that there's a tweet by Zach when the show started. I found it. Studies show that we lose one out of every 3 anime fans when a new Ikuhara show comes out, and it's just a shot of them all as kappas for the first time, and Ento's just lying on the ground, defeated.
Writhing on the ground,
Writhing.
covered in some sort of foreign liquid.
It's so gross. It's so gross.
Listen, Sarazanmai
I like the show.
is not afraid to get down and dirty when it needs to get
That's-
down and dirty.
That's true. That's true.
This podcast has been just pulling quotes that I apparently said at some point.
I
And I'm
apologize.
like, I said that, I think.
I think at some point I said that those boys get together and pillage those sphincters or something like that.
Oh no!
Pillage the sphincters.
So,
We have fun with different types of fetish humor here on Annie Chatbox, and
We don't kink shame here, because all of us
We don't
are
it's not
fucking
kink shaming.
depraved.
I approve of all these. I approve. There should have been more vor in this show.
They should vary
More
up
butt
their
stuff,
vor,
please.
actually. They should do the double V, varied vor.
More butt stuff, please.
The Shirokadamas and the boys inside when long distance shot seems like a nice pair of anal beads from the long distance shot. So that's a fun imagery right there.
Good to
So
know.
what did
Good to
so what did
know.
y'all So what did y'all think of the opening for this song?
Kana
Or for this show?
Kana
huh?
Boom is dope. I know them from Naruto opening, so they did a good job.
It grew on me. At
I
first, I thought it was really generic and boring, and I would forget about it. And then at the end, I was just like,
Da, 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 da,
It's-
da, da, da.
Once again, it's visually an interesting show in layering some of the themes and relationships between the characters in the opening is right there. Like one of my favorite sequences is when they're all doing the Sarazanmai pose,
free
while
fall.
skating on water, and it shows like a character they're connected to and how it slowly progresses that the characters' heads are slowly turned away, kind of establishing how the connection between the person doing the pose and the person's headshot.
Mm.
And it's slowly turning away as the distance between those characters grow farther and farther, representing like the different types of relationships these characters have.
I agree. I'm kind of with Cassie. At first, I was like, it was interesting to me. I really wasn't expecting a Kanabun song. I also know them from like Silhouette, Naruto.
Yep.
But I agree. It grew on me, and I really liked it. I think my favorite shot, symbolism or not, is just when they're basically like skating on like the like water jets thing. It's very pretty and is nice, and it makes me happy. And then when they're all like happy at the end, it makes me happy.
Yeah.
That ending though. That ending.
Stand by me.
Oh,
We cannot connect, y'all. We can't sync up.
That is
God damn you,
my
lag
current
time!
ringtone on my phone. Just fun fact. I have it at the click
Hell
of a
yeah.
button.
Hell yeah.
The ED. Go ahead.
No, you.
I was going to say, I believe the ED is the same director who directed a lot of the promotional material leading up to the show. Whereas
Oh.
the live action shots and anime characters standing around talking about connections.
Remember when you, before the show premiered, you were like, I want it to be live action.
I mean, slight disappointment when it ended up not being that.
You are so thirsty for it to be that. I'm like, Zach, it's never going to be that.
I was pretty thirsty for it too. I thought it was going to be really interesting and kind of abstract. And it still is. Yeah. It's still interesting and abstract, but it could have gone one step further.
Yes. Like it's so how showed they are disconnected from their world, being animated characters to live action. It's just so fucking perfect.
The system is live action.
Fuck the
system is live action, just like most awful things.
Oh god. Yes.
I mean, if the end of the show was them coming out in a live action world akin to like the Homer Simpson's episode when Homer Simpson came to the real world in that Treehouse of Horror episode, then I would have been fine with that.
Damn. I will also say, we'll dive into it later, but like the implications of that song by the last episode fucked me up so bad.
They also changed stuff in the ending constantly, like the number of shadows that were present towards the end, or just little nitpick changes that if you're paying attention to the story, you're like, wait, what? No, what's happening? Stop. No, what? It's sad.
I want my mom.
Very sad.
Even some of the recurring bits, like stock footage changed sometimes from week to week. Like the Soya dance, for example.
And the lyrics, too, to that song. Sometimes they sing different lyrics.
In the way the characters dance and how they visually represent them as the show progresses.
That being said, too, actually, yeah. So we said opening and ending, but like all the music, including so many glorious insert songs in this show, were so good.
They were.
We sang along, right? We all sang along.
Yes. I will say, I agree with a comment that Zach made, again, back when it was airing. Toei, you're not a good leading... Was it Toei or Enta that cannot...
No, it was Toei. It was Toei. He can't sing.
He tries his best.
He does.
He tried his best, but, you know...
You're an accompanying man. You can't lead. I'm sorry.
I can't connect. I can't sing.
Shit.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think he can sing. His voice actor is very prolific, and, like, even just in this show, I think he did a great job with the voice acting. There was a lot of good emotional delivery.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I think everybody did, honestly. And, dub check?
I've watched a few episodes. I watched, like, an episode or two in the dub. I will say, I believe it's Mabu's voice actor that's really kind of weird. Like, it's really whispery, and it's really quiet. That and Keppe's voice is comical. It's completely different from Suabe's Velvet. It kind of... I can't even compare him to, like, Kermit the Frog. It's seeing is believing, Kemi. You need to go check this out. It is...
I heard it. No, I did. Cassie sent me the Sarazanmai song in dub, and like, I was just like, "What the fuck?"
Are we talking about Kepi?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to walk away for a second, but yeah, Kepi in English is. I don't even know if I hate it. I'm like, I'm like, this is so very different, and it's so weird, but it weirdly works. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just was not. Yeah, I was not expecting that. It was all fun and games, and then Kepi opened his mouth.
I mean, that always happens, no matter what version you're watching.
Oof. Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, outside of him, and I think it was Reo. Zach, that's your character, right? Reo. He's the whispery guy in Funimation's dub. I like the song translations.
Mabu. Rayo's voiced by what's his face? Ian Sinclair.
Rayo is or Mabu?
Yeah, Rayo is.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Is he? That's not what I remember. Hold on.
And Damon Mills' voice is Mabu.
Weird. All I know is that when I watched Rayo, he didn't sound like the deep or whatever voice. He sounded like kind of squealy, which is fine when he talked, but when he sang, I kind of hated.
From what I gathered, because I watched the later version of the Soya dance too, is that the voice changes throughout the production. Like as he learned, the show progressed, he adapted the voice more.
I did not watch
Like-
all of it. I only watched the first 2 episodes, so I have no idea. I just know
Yeah.
the first time I heard him sing, I was like, I like Mabu more.
Mhm.
Yeah, like late production, Ian Sinclair, I think, like changed it up, and I think it definitely improves as it progressed. Because I think I saw the Soya dance and a very specific scene that happens involving an otter towards the end
Uso.
in dub. So yeah,
Uso.
So
Yeah, Mabu is Damon Mills and Rayo is Ian Sinclair. You're correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, but overall, I think the production was great. I had very little complaints.
Very
I
clean.
got nothing. And that's another thing. Like, it's 11 episodes, so there was a lot to play with in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And they definitely didn't shirk. They used all that pretty money.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Alrighty.
to animate money in really depressing ways.
Oh, right. Nice boat.
Nice boat.
Oof.
Oof.
All right.
Barge, whatever
So-
it is.
I'm gonna
get to move
retitle
into-
this entire episode to "How Hard Can We Hurt Cammy?"
Done.
All right. So we can roll on into ratings. I am going to stick my finger to my screen and say eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Not
on
me.
who
I
goes
passed it.
first. Yes. Yeah, Cassie has protection because she passed this show and she gets to give a suggestion. So she gets to go last. First off is the local sad man eating broccoli, Craig.
He just wanted Shimkin, guys. He just wanted Shimkin. God, I love just her genuine reactions is worth it, guys. Straight and simple to the point. I like this show. I think honestly, this is a great watch and a good introduction to Ikuhara's Wild Ride. I could also understand why Cass describes this as Ikuhara's End of Eva in terms of he's just said, not fuck you to the fans, but just fuck it. I'm gonna go uncaged. I'm gonna break the chains that bind me, and we're gonna talk all about connections.
You want me to talk out of my ass? Well, watch me go.
This is as blatant as you get in some of his messaging. It's pretty good, and it also at the same time shows some problematic elements and how people can grow from these problems and to overcome adversity. So yeah, I liked it.
Nice.
Give it a like it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I can go next, and this is weird. Like, I'm gonna give it a love it because I did thoroughly enjoy this show. I definitely don't think that it's per se like a masterpiece, but it is an Ikuhara show that does everything that I love about Ikuhara shows for the most part, which is just like very strong messages presented in a very unique way that like I really can't find anywhere else in terms of anime. I was endeared to the characters, which is also a big thing for me. I was relatively pleased with the writing and the pacing, and like, yeah, some things were confusing to me by the end, but I wasn't like ruined on the show for it. Like, I still enjoyed the show and had a good time with it. And the presentation, I think, was just so well done, and the music was so well done. It just had a good package, and yeah, I'm just gonna go give it a love it. I enjoyed this show.
Nice.
It was good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Zach, that means you are next.
I love it.
Really? Oh,
I mean, I love all Ikuhara.
you know what?
books.
I
Like,
shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because like I don't know, any show that makes me dive into it like a madman, I think deserves some sort of
I
credit.
rem-
And then this is
I
definitely
remember you saying when the show ended, you and Cammy and Suki were just going at like I am Windows like mad. You're like,
there was a lot of text
oh,
messaging.
lots,
There, sure.
a lot.
Lots of text messaging. Yeah, any show that makes me dive like a madman, sit there contemplating what's going to happen, definitely get something out of me for a week. I think Ikuhara tackles great messages and themes in all his shows that I really relate to and love to see explore. I love the abstract like use of artwork and the story and beats and making it more ambiguous so you can have those multiple interpretations type stuff. It just like And just as an artist, I just relate to his works a lot. And this is his best production yet in terms of production values. It's the prettiest show in a lot of regards, both with all the leakage and all. So yeah, I'll give it a love.
Cool beans. All right, Cassie, tell us what you thought of Sarazanmai.
All right, everybody get ready to sit for 20 minutes because we're going to have to go through all of these. I love it. It's a really good show.
Yeah!
Damn.
I passed this show with the biggest hype that I could have. The first 3 episodes disgusted me, made me angry, made me happy, and by the end, I had gone through every emotion that I possibly could have in an 11-episode span. I cried, I laughed, I threw my phone out a window or wanted to. I just couldn't wait to talk to people about this show. And that's... I won't say that's rare, but it's special. And that I could go into an IM window with Zach or Cammy or Suki or Craig even sometimes and be like, hey, this happened. What did you think? And I would come away with like so many new ideas and thoughts and feelings and emotions. And that's just something Ikuhara does best, regardless of his episode count, regardless of which social issue is he trying to tackle. In today's episode, Hardy Her. Social issues are basically Ikuhara's monster of the week, and there's nobody who does it better, in my personal opinion. And Sarazanmai, also has one of the best, LGBTQ couples, in recent anime history. And the ending for those characters is very powerful, and explores a lot of, I read like a really long, article that Zach gave me, I think, or Dominic gave me, or they both gave me, because they were both, wow, this is really relevant to what Cassie thinks is important. And they're right. Sarazanmai it's important. It's an important show. And I can't give such an important show anything less than a love it. And I could go on for a very long time about its production values, and its characters, and its themes, and its story, and its musical numbers, and everything else that sets it apart, but I would be here for another 2 hours, and most of it we've already said. So, just gonna sit here and tell you that I love this show a whole lot, and I really hope that more people will check out, if not this show, more of his work, because it's just important.
I think you stated that beautifully. Like, very well done. I'm giving you mental applause right now.
Yay! As our alternate anime recommendation, I wanted to shine a little light on this show called Mononoke, which is also a very surreal exploration of, in comparison, it's a little bit different in its story structure, because it's kind of like a monster of the week kind of story, where each week you kind of look at a new monster, which is kind of like the beginning of Sarazanmai. But it really dives into surreal views of different murder mysteries or monsters of the week, or just strange cases of paranoia or phenomena, and a really interestingly made package. It's also great because it's also a show of how very talented Toei animation staff are. Because it is done by Toei, and I have seen Mononoke, and it is also like nothing I have ever seen before. So if you like Sarazanmai and Ikuhara's works, I think that you'll also probably like Mononoke. It has a little bit of a different genre, a little bit of a different flavor, but its values are very similar and making you think.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, I still have to watch that one. I will check it out sometime.
You did a very good job of selling me on it. Made me think Anime Hannibal for a second.
It's not like Anime Hannibal, but it's very I'll talk to you about it later. It's really good. I actually think you'll love the shit out of it, Zach. Like, just knowing your taste.
Like I said, you did a good job of selling me on it.
Well, hopefully I sold a lot more people on it, because it's really damn good and very different. And I think that while it does have some popularity in the anime community, I think in the more recent years it's kind of fallen to the wayside in popularity. So the more people who watch it, the better.
Awesome. All right, well, before we dive into our spoiler room, we are going to hit those of you who want to head out with some social links. You can get in touch with us at twitter.com/anime Annie Chatbox. You can send us some email at anniechatmail@gmail.com. If you want to listen to us, we are available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And brand new, we actually are on Spotify now. So if that is an app that you use for your primary listening pleasure, you can look us up at Annie Chatbox. If you want to be kind and donate to us in any means, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/AnnieChatbox. Go browse our reward tiers, and big shout outs to our patrons, Sarah, CorpsyAnn, Carol, Suki, Paul, and TroubleClef. Thank you so much for what you do, and we really appreciate your patronage. And, of course, if you have not gotten enough of Craig's voice or the voice of our guest host today, Zach, you can listen to them more at soundcloud.com/saveourprogress. What was the latest episode that you all covered, by the way?
Zach.
I don't know who was that aimed at.
Neither of y'all. Run at the
Neither.
same time. We'll try and decipher what you're
Great.
saying all at the same time.
We did an AMA, or rather, mostly just listening to Pete and Paul talk about Europe for a good hot minute. Nearly 2 hours, in fact. And we basically listened to the fact that they drank the best water on the planet. So listen to how they got hydrated.
And drank lots of beer.
Lots of beer and lots of food.
Lots of
So
beer.
get lots of hydration to get lots of dehydration?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. So yeah, again, you can check them out at soundcloud.com/saveourprogress. You're also on Spotify, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can find us anywhere where podcasts can be
Zach
found.
Zach inspired me posting everything on Spotify for a chatbox. So
Thanks, Zach. Thank Craigs. Y'all are good. All right. Well, with that, if you're not going to hang out for our spoiler room, thank you so much for listening to episode 121 of the Annie Chatbox, and we will see you next time. Anyway, so now we are in our beanbag chairs, getting all comfy, because y'all...
Soya!
We have to talk spoilers.
Darkness.
Oh God, I feel like we need to kind of get the elephant out of the room, and address the last episode first. Maybe just
unpack
general reactions even. Because I think my general reaction was mixed. Just kind of, so many sudden things are revealed, and some of them I understood, some of them I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I think the final bit, after the end credits and stuff, was probably just very interpreted very differently between different people.
It was
like Cassie mentioned earlier. Some people saw it very somber, some people saw it as more hopeful. So that's interesting to me, because I think. Oh yes.
Oh, I was just gonna be where do we start?
Yeah, I feel like most of Ikuhara's endings usually are more blatantly hopeful.
Yeah, I've described them as often bittersweet.
That's a good way to put it.
There's a hopeful aspect, there's a good aspect of it, and you think good things are happening for people, but sometimes there's a little like you said, there's a little somber in there.
Mm-hmm.
Visual, metaphorical death is often a recurring thing
Yeah.
in his shows. At least on a visual aspect, usually some characters might ascend to a higher plane
Mm-hmm.
or are lost, and that's the idea of your characters being forgotten is often related to death as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's these aspects of death and so on and so forth often appear in his shows.
Yeah, and in that case, I can definitely understand the perceived notion that there is death in the end of Sarazanmai. Well, I didn't see it that way. I think also for me, because they potentially addressed metaphorical death earlier in the episode with
Literally.
all of the Toei killing himself, shooting himself with a gun. But there was a really interesting cue that both you and Suki mentioned about the river Styx or something.
Yeah, the idea of the river Styx is kind of a good representation of life and death, because one thing they mentioned early on, that being Kappas is you're not alive, you're not dead, you're in this in between.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, we kind of reviewed the idea of, like, oh, you're traveling down the River Styx, and especially... I think my view on the ending changed a little bit since this conversation. I think it's a more hopeful ending, but I definitely can... But, like, a more positive ending. I think it's his most positive ending so far. But, yeah, the imagery of, like, death is kind of there, but I kind of have a different take on it than before. But I still think it's there.
Yeah. I think it's positive, mostly in the sense that, like, it is... really ambiguous. Like, I think, weirdly enough, this is where I'm like, this ending is so much harder to unpack than Yurikuma, Penguin Jump, or Utena. Like, okay, so maybe I could take it as, okay, Toei got out of juvie, and then he jumped into the river, and then Kazuki and Enta jumped into the river with them, and then they turned into Kappas, and it says, to the future! I'm like, well, that's hopeful. That's hopeful. That's cool, I guess. Did they just become Kappas again to, like, more to help Kepi out? Because Kepi, let's not forget that he got restored, apparently, because darkness, and also Sara is there, too, as a Kappa princess queen. That's fucking weird, okay. A lot.
We didn't even talk about the true Kappa forms, but that was fun.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Kepi's hot now.
Okay. That's an interpretation.
Is that how you describe hot?
No, not really. I just wanted to make somebody laugh.
He's Bishi? Is he Bishi?
He did.
Sure.
What about Sarah's new form? How did you feel
I
about
thought
that?
she looked really pretty, actually.
Didn't she?
Oh.
I'm trying to remember. I swear she had like those like stripper tights, like the
Stripper tight?
She did have something similar.
Fishnet stockings.
Yeah, the fishnet. Thank you. That's what I meant. Not distinctly stripper, but that's the first thing my mind went to.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're happy. You know what? I'm super glad that they are happy.
I just wish that we
reunited.
like saw any build up to it, but that's besides the point.
Can
Yeah.
I talk about one aspect of the ending that really makes me happy?
Yeah,
Please.
Go for it.
I like that Reo and Mabu got a happy ending.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's so
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
I
It's
thought
very
they
good.
died.
They did.
They
They
did.
did.
Okay.
But the thing is,
But then they
didn't. Like it's all up to your own interpretation. But there's a lot of. I can't exactly remember how I explained it to Cammie. I'm gonna go and look it up because I had a really weird, like, philosophical moment, and I described it in a way that I understood for 5 minutes, and then I forgot. Let me go find it.
The idea that kappas exist between life and death, I think, is an interesting and important aspect to the ending of how one interprets it and how you can just describe it as literal or not. Because, like, it is a happy ending. They are together, and same with the boys. They're all together. So that's, I think, which is a positive.
Yes, like at the end of it, the fact that the boys are together, that they are still connected, stands, and that is.
I found it. The thing I said to Cammie was, I feel like Kepi was able to realize their connection, and because someone could truly, their revival meant that they can all mend that we can all mend broken connections as long as there is a will or a way to recognize it through someone or something.
So basically, just giving them a restart to life.
I think that from my point of view, if somebody remembers you, if somebody loves you, if somebody is willing to make a connection with you, you can't be gone.
Huh. That makes sense.
Yep.
I love that.
Connections is the biggest important aspect of the show. And that's why the bridge is a very important place in the show.
They always
as
go
well.
to the bridge, right?
Because one thing I just, like, it physically hit me like a truck, like, some time ago. But just, like, the idea of most important scenes occur on the
battles.
bridge is a big point. Because the bridge represent connections. Because you're connecting from one side to another. The bridge is the connection. So when, for example, when Toei was leaving, giving up on his connections, he was on a boat sailing away from the bridge specifically, which represents the connections that they have with each other.
If I remember correctly, that's also
And so
where...
when Toei...
If I remember right, real quick. If I remember, that's also where the soccer field is, next to the bridge. Like,
Yes.
the bridge overlooked it.
Yes. All the major battles take place there. And, like, the reason why I feel like that ending scene where Toei jumps off the bridge happens at the bridge, as in the boys didn't go to the prison, for example. It's because to get that imagery of him leaving the bridge once again by jumping off in a visually, like, attempted suicide, at least visually, like, but the boys are there to rescue him at the end. They accept him, they bring connect, kind of like reenacting that bit with Kazuki when he tries to go into the hole in episode 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And then the boys are there to bring him back to establish that connection with each other.
Yeah.
Another really cool thing about the ending that like hit me like a truck and I really appreciated was they brought in all of the end title cards. That was really cool.
And the idea of like how these connections are so important because it shows like a potential futures and that they could have when they're connected with each other and using the title cards.
So on that point, the future that they saw, that was just one possibility, right? Like it all went sideways in those futures, right? Where like they all were playing like pro soccer and then the band broke up at a certain point, right?
Oh, that whole montage honestly kind of confused me. I was like, is this just alternate realities like that could be at risk if they stay connected?
That's
how I kind of interpret it, or I
Yeah.
interpret it as one possibility of like many that could.
Many.
Or another thought I had was this is actually what happened. The show is just a metaphor to show that this is what happened between them.
Damn.
Because
I think
it could be any way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
so.
I think in the end, you're supposed to come away with the connections with each other is the most important thing, and not to give up on those
Yes.
connections.
Yeah.
I'm a concept.
I am a concept. Do so.
God, man.
So-
Like, that character. I thought he was just literally a scientist, and then he literally just looks at his hand. I am a concept.
I mean,
Disintegrates.
it didn't frustrate me. I just thought it was funny because I
It
was
was-
like, well,
no.
no shit, Ikuhara.
Oh, no.
Like-
Oh, no, it's funny. It's just more like, what the fuck okay, cool. He just goes.
Well,
Well,
if
I
you
think-
knew it was... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say the whole thing with because they never really give a reason for the because I can talk. They never really give a reason for why they're trying to make people disappear. It's just they're a concept of what happens when connections are broken.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they literally are just a concept.
Concept. Yeah. Like, it definitely felt like, okay, 11 episodes, we pushed it, just gotta go bye-bye now. But, like, it works also within the story.
Yeah.
I both love and hate the ending of this fucking show.
I do want to talk a little bit, if I could mention this thing. And Zach, if your opinions changed, like, a whole lot, just let me know. But I found this post that you sent me later after doing some thinking where you said, I think the suicide-esque imagery in the last episode is still on point, but I think it's supposed to be a metaphor of Toei throwing his life away to go to prison. Like, without his brother around, he feels he has to either face the music or potentially go on living with no hopes of connections, / prison is a metaphorical death. The showing of alternate realities is shown in a sports metaphor because it's aimed at all the boys and it's one thing they have in common. They also show through said clip that life is going to be fucking hard. Shit is going to be difficult to overcome, but eventually you'll get through because of the bond you made. And I think that's good stuff.
That is pretty up.
That's the best, and I like it.
Yeah.
I like to continue pulling quotes that I've given to people and throwing it back at me. I'm like, yes.
I said
Yes,
those.
I said that. That was sure a thought I had.
I still stand by said thought. But yeah.
Well, yeah, it's good just because, like, I know that some people, I think it helped me be at ease because I know some people were just like, oh, they just all died. They all killed themselves. They're dead. And I was like, I didn't feel like hurt by the ending, you know? Like, I did think it was more hopeful. And I think that does kind of lend some clarity there. So I think that is good to mention. Maybe I just don't want any of them dead. Who knows?
I think it still is more hopeful ending. I think Ikuhara's getting soft in his old age.
I could see that. I could see that. What did you all think? I'm just curious. What did you all think? Because, like, I know in the first episode, especially, I think that we... Like, Kazuki's identity and, like, his reason for cross-dressing is different. You know, I wondered if we would get commentary about potentially, like, a transgender character, and then we didn't. It's done for a different reason.
Right.
It wasn't what I was expecting. I still think the show did a good job in, like, giving it relevance. But yeah.
I thought it was pretty well done. I just like his whole relationship with Haruko is interesting. I maybe I misinterpreted it, but like, were they actually blood brothers? Was he adopted?
He was adopted.
He was adopted. That's his whole thing.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's why he can't connect, because he doesn't feel that familial connection because he's not
right.
And then he feels responsible for Haruka's injury afterwards.
Yes,
so he's stuck there. He can't leave because he has
guilt.
He has guilt, and he has a responsibility to live up to his mistake, but he also is stuck in a place where he feels like he's not connecting with anybody.
Yeah.
So he has to force that connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By being Sada, essentially. So yeah.
I was pretty disappointed, though. I wanted a transgender character. I don't think that it was used as a joke, though, which was good.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely not a joke.
It's handled in a way, and I understand, like, and honestly, the fact that he chose to cross-dress is interesting, because he's saying, I can even become, someone who's a celebrity or a female or somebody who's the exact opposite of myself if I need to make this connection. So the fact he went to that length and that they used cross-dressing to represent that, I wasn't offended by. I was just disappointed. I wanted to.
I just wanted more from it.
Because we could have done a lot with Ikuhara could have done a lot with that concept. I mean,
there's a lot of Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you barely touched on that with like Utena wanting to, portray as a prince in so much of like Utena, and it's like years
social
later,
norms.
It's like, hey, you could go really deep into this, Ikuhara. Like, you could do good stuff.
Absolutely.
Scratches the surface of social norms, right?
If I have a problem with the show, it's like it introduces a lot of cool concepts, but it doesn't really go anywhere to focus on the main through line of the story.
Yeah.
Like, the imagery of the boxes and the ongoing Kapazan stuff incorporates like this weird like lore involving like connections of like corporatism and capitalism involved as part of the system, but it never really goes anywhere.
Bezos is always watching. He's got your back.
I wish Kappa Bezos was always watching. This is why I thought Kappa was a bad guy. That's hurtful. Why did you post that?
I mean, that was the thing, right? Like the man or whatever is only just boiled down to Reo and Mabu. So, like, when they brought up Kapazan in the beginning episodes, I was like, are we going to get, like, the Shadow Organization a la Penguin Drum in this series as well? No? Okay, I guess.
In the end, the system is represented via the otters, and then them being cops was a choice because they were gays who were incorporated by the system and were abused by the system and forced to work part of the system because that's the way the system is, Oof. So the choice of them being cops is purposeful in that regard. They're the ones who can abuse the system and work for the system.
Can we also talk about how sad it was that then the system is like sexually abusing Mabu as well?
Yeah.
God.
Absolutely.
That's sad, and that, I mean, it just only shown in a couple like shots, but like that's another thing you could really go deeper into and like get into some dark stuff, but they don't. So.
And how the system, or Uso, the otter, takes the form of Rio when sexually abusing Mabu in these scenes as well, because of his need to connect with him, but he can't connect because of
he's dead.
Well, the heart thing.
Oh, it's the heart thing. It's if he admits that he loves him, then his heart will explode. So he has to pretend.
There's a great thread that exists out there. I think I bookmarked it, so I'm going to pull up the name so I can give them proper props. This is from someone named Shipper in Japan. Made a very long post-it thread about Mabu and Reo's relationship, and that's how important of them, that ending bit where they say, when Mabu says, I love you. And part of the idea is that because it's also, again, an ongoing trend in Japan, when in animators, where like you can show, but you can't say it,
right? Because
that gives like credence to like their actual relationship. Like it defines it as this is actually a relationship, not like a phase, or you can just be like how everyone your eyes because they never said the word love you. It's like, oh no, they're just really close.
It's
friends.
like
they kiss and they marry, but they're just really good friends.
It's essentially Ikuhara saying fuck you to heteronormativity in anime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the importance of that scene, and then how their relationship is built around this. Rio doesn't feel connected to Mabu
Because
anymore.
he's a fake.
Because he thinks it's a fake the entire time, not the original. His Mabu, because Mabu would show him love.
He would make him
like he would say it.
He would make him. What was the thing? He always made him like cookies or whatever, right? And whenever he ate like the fake Mabu, air quotes.
Oh yeah.
He would like Reo would eat it, but he'd be like, "This is fucking disgusting."
Yeah.
And fake Mabu would just be like, okay.
And it's Ikuhara's way of saying it's like show, don't tell is not enough in terms of relationship, and that's because that's the way from Reo's perspective is not enough. Because he's like he's doing all these things his mom would do, but because of the situation and circumstances and also being hurt by the otter and basically what he thinks was kind of like a cheating sort of situation. He's like, this is not my Mabu.
Well,
because Mabu would tell me how much he loves me and so on and so forth.
And that's why it's so powerful that like throughout the show he doesn't accept watered down love. You know, he fights and he needs the genuine love, which again is just super powerful commentary. It's like we won't be censored, the love won't be censored sort of thing.
Which is why he allowed himself to be incorporated by the system, abuses the system, and basically steps on others to get what he wants and desires. He makes mistakes because of the system he's forcefully put into.
Good stuff with them.
Yeah.
I honestly want to rewatch it just to catch like all their little bits even more.
The bit where he actually did say "I love you" and that like everything that happened after, I was like crying on a fucking airplane.
It was really fucking good.
Tears. I agree. Agreed. And I like how the relationship is juxtaposes to the boys. I think a very important moment was when Enta gets shot, which also recreates a very important moment between Ryo and Mabu, which is what put Mabu in that state to begin with. He gets shot defending Ryo. Enta does the same thing. And there's a line specifically that Enta says, like, I can't even hate you as a joke. As the most compare and contrast to how Mabu has to basically act like stone cold to Ryo because he can't say I love you to him. But even then, it's like, even in these dark moments and how the relationship, the rocky relationship that Kazuki and Enta have throughout the show, even in the end when he gets shot and he's like, I have every reason to kind of like be mad. I can't do it. He can't put on this fake persona, this facade.
Oh, God. Good moments. I think each of the boys like had a small moment that made me like tear up or cry, which was really good. The moment I wanted to allude to earlier with Kazuki was just when he basically says like Haruka's injury was my fault and like I'm not I'm artificial in this family, like, and I don't deserve to be here. Like that was some big sad.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And very similar to Toei, he has a similar, well, at least in his case, he has like a hero complex where he needs to feel the need to sacrifice himself for the greater good or other people to get better. That's thus his situation in episode 6. So.
I cried when Enta like came back basically, and he saw that Kazuki was there to rescue him, and he just like was crying and was like Kazuki, and I was like, oh God, poor sad baby. And then with Toy, like. The death of Toy's brother is so interesting to me because I don't like Toy's brother. Like, I wasn't like, oh no, I want him to live. I was just more like, God, this is so painful for Toy. Like, everything, even if it's not, you know, the right connection, he's working so hard. He's like thrown everything away to just preserve what he believes is the one connection he has left. And it's just gone up in smoke. This poor, broken boy who did not deserve any of this.
And then I
like Toei's brother.
Yeah? You like Chikai?
Because I think that, because he does definitely love Toei. Because, like, he took the fall for Toei actually murdering the dude. And he's like, you didn't do that, I did that. It's okay. He took so many falls for Toei, I can never say his name right.
Toei.
So he took so many falls for him that he had to become this bad person to preserve the life for his brother.
He's got to be an elite Yakuza at that point, yeah.
And at that point, and he got to a point where he was in so deep, it's almost the exact same thing with the Otter Cops. He ended up being put into a system where he had all the best intentions to show love for his brother, and then it got to a point where there wasn't anything he could do. It got to a point where he even pointed a gun at Toei at one point, because he's like, I don't know what to do anymore.
Wasn't he gonna kill him, though?
I don't think so. I think that he was intimidating him. I think he was trying to push him away. I think he was
pushing him out.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
and I think he was trying to be like, listen, I'm a bad because he kept saying like, oh, only the bad people survive in this world, but I'm a bad person, but you're not a bad person, so leave.
Right.
I don't think...
Like, he gave him several outs towards the end of the show. Like, he definitely gives him moments to leave.
I think that he genuinely loved his brother, and I think that connection meant so much to him that he was willing to maintain a lie if it meant keeping Toei safe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it blew up in his face. That's how I interpreted it.
And then he got sniped, if I remember, on that boat.
Yeah, he did. And you'll know that like when he was dying, he was like, take this money, take care of yourself. You gotta take care of you. Like,
I wouldn't, I definitely think you're right in that. I wouldn't argue any of that. Like, I do think he loved his brother, and that was him trying to push him away. I guess what I mean is that, like, I wasn't sad because he died, because I don't think for me I caught on enough to those nuances. Yeah. I was sad for Toei in the moment. I wasn't sad because his brother, was dead, and I wanted him to live, basically.
That's fair.
I can get that.
Yeah, but no, I think you're right. I do think you're exactly right in that he cared a lot, and again, that was just trying to give him outs that poor naive baby did not do.
Chica, alongside Toei, are characters that are people that are characterized by the system, because these are people who do bad things, so they must be bad people. Mm-hmm. And I like playing with that the imagery, because they set up a lot of things that, like, Toei does. Like, he sells weed, murder man, he keeps a weapon on him all times. He has this, like, personality that seems very off-putting. But then we get to know him a lot as a character, and we know that's
he's a sad boy.
It's just this idea that you're just quick to judge based off looks, like judging a book by its cover. And I think Chica's the example of also that, but we never get to meet the true Chica, for example. Is that his name?
Chikai, yeah.
Chikai. Yeah,
Chikai. Enta saw a facet probably that no one else did, but again, Enta kind of being like the third party, seeing the connections on everyone is also interesting.
Yeah, it's sometimes you get to be that outside observer and you get to see the inside, like when Enta was hanging out with Chikai. I think that's a very good insight that kind of hints you there's more to this person than meets the eye, because he puts on such a facade around his own sibling. Mm-hmm.
That's very true, yeah. Yeah, anyone else got any other spoilers?
Deep.
It's deep stuff.
I think
there's a lot of spoilers we could talk about, but in the interest of time, we might have to wrap it up.
I would say, bottom line, much like all Iku works, it warrants probably a rewatch just to kind of pick up on subtle nuances. And more people will talk about this shit, and forum posts, and all that. I can't wait to see what he creates next in the next 4+ years, probably. So, yeah.
Heck yeah. All right, then for those of you that stuck around, this was episode 121 of the Annie Chat Box. We thank you for listening and tuning in. And we're not going to dive into some sphincters, but we will see you later. So have a good night.
In the wise words of Zach, suck it.
Suck it.
Suck it. Sakuga's in the butt.
In the butt.
Oyasumi na sa.
Boy.
Hey,